Grayson Report, happy Monday. What is up? Tammy, D Nice, Matthew, Carol, Wendy, Bernadette, Nerd Report. How's everyone doing? How's your Monday going? We'll wait a few minutes for a few people to trickle in. As always, Skeleduck is somewhere in this background. Just remind me by the end of the stream or before the end of the stream, and I'll reveal his location. I think everyone here knows who Skeleduck is, but just in case, he is pictured in my upper right-hand corner. Might be your upper, or my upper left-hand corner. Might be your upper right-hand corner. I am backwards today. Sorry, guys. That is what he looks like. And I hide him no matter what studio I am in the background. So just remind me at the end of the stream because I will forget in my old age. D Nice is asking how you doing, Lisa. I'm doing great. While we're waiting for people to trickle in, got some movie news for you. Give me a second. Smile 2 gets a digital release. So if you guys, for those of you that like to buy movies, I usually kind of wait for them to go on like Max or Hulu or one of those streaming services before I actually buy it, unless it's a movie I really want to see, because a lot of times with VOD, though you paid for it, you don't necessarily own it. So sometimes it's better to buy a physical copy. For those of you that have been hankering to watch Smile 2, it does get a digital drop this week and a 4K Ultra HD Steelbook to follow. I have not seen this film, but I did hear that a lot of people like this one better than the first one. I could not finish the first one. I did see the horror short that this film was based on, and I felt like the horror short was better than the first film. But that's just me. I know a lot of people do like this film. I do like the idea of it. It is creepy as hell, but I just could not get into it. The trauma demon from the original Smile is back to curse another victim suffering from PTSD. This time it's the famous pop singer Sky Riley, Naomi Scott, who is trying to make a comeback after dealing with lost mental health issues. Smile 2 arrives for purchase on digital on November 19th. So it is this tomorrow. I forgot today was the 18th. Smile 2 will also be available on digital as part of a 2-movie collection with the original Smile and will arrive on 4K Ultra HD in a 4K Ultra HD Steelbook and on DVD on January 21st, 2025. You can order the Steelbook now, I guess, if you search for it. We do have to wait a while for the Steelbook. For those of you that like to collect movies, and I know there's some people that do, it's not going to be until early next year. But I don't know when it is going to come on to streaming. I'm not sure what company put out Smile. Hold on. I think it's Paramount. Is it Paramount? Paramount. So it's most likely in the future, it's going to be on Paramount Plus eventually. There is no release date for that at this moment, but it will be on digital tomorrow. What's up, Lisa Boo? How's it going, Emily Parkinson? Marcella, how's it going? Also, some more movie news while we wait for people to trickle in. Terrifier 3. I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I did. Terrifier 3 also gets a home to digital release for Thanksgiving and physical media for Christmas. This is the one I am looking forward to. I'm a huge fan of Terrifier. This one does have a Christmas theme, so it'd be perfect for Christmas, for a horror Christmas movie if you're trying to keep Christmas spooky like I do. In the wake of scaring up to 85 million at the worldwide box office and becoming the highest grossing unrated movie of all time, Damien Leone's Christmas themed slasher hit Terrifier 3 is headed home for the holidays from Cineverse and Bloody Disgusting. Terrifier 3 will first be available on digital outlets at home beginning on November 26, 2024, with the film's hotly anticipated physical media release for December 17th, 2024. We don't have to wait too long for that. So, like I said, if you are the one that likes to buy VOD, just remember that if that movie, I want to say the VOD service loses the rights to that movie, you will lose that movie even though you paid for it. So sometimes it's not good to buy digital format. The physical media, as it said in this article, will be December 17th, which is not too far away. It's a great Christmas gift for some the horror fan in your life. But I'm not sure what streaming service this one would be. I want to say Peacock. Peacock does those obscured movies, like they do Blood and Honey. So I'm assuming Terrifier might go there. I'm not sure what production company. Put out Terrifier. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna look up because now I'm curious. Terrifier 3. Oh, there's many, so I'm not sure where. Oh, it says it will eventually be available to stream on Screambox, which I don't have, a platform owned by Cineverse because it is put out by Dark Age Cinema, Bloody Disgusting, The Coven, and Fuzz on the Lens Productions. So it has many productions. So I am not sure which streaming service besides Screambox that it will come out. D Nice goes, the Muppet Christmas Carol was still terrifying considering it had puppets. Then also, I'm trying to get all my movie news out at the beginning here before we get into the nitty gritty. 4 new, I didn't even put it up. 4 new horror movies released at home for those of you that are looking for something spooky to watch. If you're more into the idea of staying home than heading out to your local theater, you're in luck because all of these weeks' brand new horror is available from the comfort of your own home, and that's exactly me. Here are all the new horror that released November 11th through November 17th. Melissa Barrera, Scream 6, and Abigail is back in Vertical's new comedy horror movie, Your Monster, and the coming of rage horror rom-com is now available on VOD at home. The romantic monster movie puts a new spin on the classic tale of Beauty and the Beast. In the film, after her life falls apart, soft-spoken actress Laura Franco finds her voice again when she meets a terrifying yet weirdly charming monster living in her closet. Your Monster tells the story of the soft-spoken actor Laura Franco, who is dumped by her longtime boyfriend, played by Edmund Donovan, while recovering from surgery and retreats to her childhood home to recover. With her future looking bleak and insult is added to injury when Laura discovers her ex is staging a musical that she helped him develop. But out of these gut-wrenching life changes emerges Monster, played by Tommy Dewey, with whom she finds a connection, encouraging Laura to find her dreams, open her heart, and fall in love with her inner rage. The horror comedy movie is based on Caroline Lindy's short film from 2019. So I will definitely have to check out that short film because I do love horror shorts. And if you guys also, too, on YouTube, there are a whole bunch of horror shorts, and I feel like some of those are actually pretty good. Some are better than some of the movies that we have nowadays. But if you guys are looking for something spooky that's free on YouTube, check out horror shorts. There's quite a few on there. They are they're basically independent, so it's someone decided to make it, and I do enjoy watching them because they are very short. Some of them are 5 minutes. You might get one that's 30 minutes, but they're actually kind of cool. The featured directorial debut of Jersey Shore alumni Jenny Jawan Farley new found footage horror movie Devon was released into VOD outlets this past Tuesday. I don't know about that one. For those with a Screambox subscription, which I do not have, mark your calendars for November 26th. In the film, when a group of friends try to uncover the truth behind an unsolved disappearance, they unwittingly find themselves at the center of a terrifying mystery. Here's a full synopsis. Devon. I was like, what? Because it goes from one, it's weird how this article is. Bloody disgusting. Organize your article. Here's a full synopsis. Following their daughter's mysterious disappearance, Devon's parents never stop searching for the truth. After the asylum she disappears from was condemned, their questions look like they would remain forever answered or unanswered. Years later, a cryptid website recruits 5 courageous individuals to explore the abandoned asylum and discover what happened to the girl. Unaware that they are embarking on a perilous one-way journey, these individuals delve into the sinister depths with only their equipment, leading to a terrifying and deadly experience. A longtime admirer of the genre, Jenny Jawan Farley, takes viewers into a found footage mystery which draws the real-life horror of the unknown. There is a trailer if you guys are interested in it. I do not have Screambox. I am kind of curious because it's from someone who was in the Jersey Shore. Just curious just to see what she came up with. Get her, girl. What is up? Hug dealer. How's it going? A children's legend turns into a horrifying nightmare in Piper, a wickedly creepy horror fantasy that tells a terrifying tale for children paying for the sins of their parents. Starring Elizabeth Hurley, Piper is now available on VOD. These are all like on VOD. But that's okay. There is a trailer if you guys want to check it out. It sounds interesting. There's also Entertainment Squad genre label The Horror Collective released their new movie Do Not Open on VOD this past Tuesday. It's a psychological thriller that exposes the terrifying consequences of our modern obsession with technology. When daughter's longing to attend a music festival is thwarted by her parents, she downloads a mysterious app in a desperate attempt to avoid the wrath of her friends, unknowingly triggering a series of disturbing events. As the Doe family's tech edition come under attack, their devices malfunction, leading to eerie disturbances in their daily routine. So it's called Do Not Open. And it's Tubi time all over again with The Creep Tapes, a brand new small screen expansion of the found footage horror franchise that just premiered on Shudder this weekend. I do have Shudder. Sometimes I haven't browsed it lately. I haven't had a chance to watch some things lately too as well, so I'm going to have to check Shudder out. Mark Duplass reprises his role in the 6-episode Shudder original series from Duplass and Patrick Bryce, with the first 2 episodes now streaming on Shudder and AMC+. The Creep Tapes continue to unravel the mind of a secluded serial killer who lures videographers into the world with the promise of a paid job documenting his life. Unfortunately, as the tape rolls, the killer questionable intentions surface with the increasingly odd behavior, and the victims will learn they may have made a deadly mistake. And if you guys are shopping at Ralph's, here is their ad. No, sorry, I think it's funny that there's an ad for Ralph's on a horror movie or a horror site, might I add. D, nice question. Would you feel if we go back to VHS? Not gonna lie, I do miss rewinding the tapes. I would be able to handle VHS, but I think some of the newer generation will be like, "What the hell is this?" Because I mean, the newer generation is used to the digital and the Blu-rays and all that. That having to put a tape in would be kind of weird for them. But I think it's kind of cool. Heather Salvatore, what is up? She is lurking. But I think it would cool. VHS, I think now are kind of becoming a collector's item, and I think people are actually buying them. So if you do have them, hold on to them. I do have the original Batman on VHS. I think I have the X-Files on VHS. I don't remember how many. I think it's the whole entire season up to a certain point. And then I think I have I think I have Top Gun on VHS somewhere. And I'm going to hold on to them. I'm not going to get rid of them. Kyle, how's it going? Gunner Girl goes, they don't even know how to use a regular. Exactly. They don't know how to use a regular telephone because they grew up in the age of cell phones. They'll be like, what? How do you turn this rotary dial? Or D Nice is asking, what's scarier, Halloween movies or Christmas movies? I want to say Christmas movies. Because some of the Christmas movies, not to say that they're scary, but some of the Christmas movies, if you're not in the mood for a Christmas movie, you don't want to watch them. Especially like a lot of the ones I've seen. I haven't even looked at the ones that came out, like Hallmark ones, but there's always like a love story that comes with it, or I don't know, some cheesy love story or something. I would much rather watch a horror movie that takes place during Christmas time than a Christmas movie from the Hallmark movie. Not to say that they're bad. They're not bad. I've seen some good ones, but yeah. I'd be like Wednesday watching a Christmas movie. Emily goes, some lone fires over there on my Twitch. If you guys want to follow Grayson Report on Twitch, I'm on there too as well. If you're more of a Twitch person, you can check me out there. Bernadette dropped the link. Emily Parkinson says some of the sickening give you cavities. Christmas movies are more horrifying than Halloween movies. Hugs goes, I have 2 VHS players and a tote full of VHS tapes. That is super cool. I know I've got some somewhere else too in my garage buried. I don't know. Wendy goes, not that sappy, cheesy shot, Lisa. Well, that's what those Christmas movies are. They're like sappy. There you go. I couldn't think of the word. They're sappy. Also, some news thanks to Matthew had brought up to my attention. Unfortunately, I can't show you because I'm not logged into Twix. Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, now known as Twix. Jason Hawes has given us a little update on the Conjuring House, which is something I was hoping would happen. If they, because on not my last stream, but the stream before that, I did speak about some updates for the Conjuring House, how the business license for the Conjuring House was up in the air. They were ordered to shut down because they didn't have, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to kick the camera. They were ordered to shut down because they didn't have workman's comp insurance, but I guess she did get workman's comp insurance and she claimed she didn't know she needed it. But Jason has tweeted earlier today, 3 hours ago, that just for your FYI, everyone, the town decided to not renew the Conjuring House business license. The business license ends at the end of this month. If you paid, this is what Jason is saying, if you paid, call your credit card companies and bank now. So it does look like, because without this business license, they cannot run a business out of that location. Thank goodness that they declined it. So that means this could actually be the end of the Conjuring House as a business, which is what a lot of us wanted, because we didn't want to support Jacqueline Nunez because she is definitely crazy. And I know I've said this before, but you cannot help someone that doesn't think that they need help, and she's one of them. She's never going to realize what she's doing unless she sees and get herself help unless she decides to do it, because she is a stubborn woman. I do feel like she is entitled and above everyone else. But this is good news because it does look like that could be the end of the Conjuring House. which is super cool because I don't think, I mean, knowing that a person like that runs that business, I don't think I ever want to walk foot into that business because just imagine what she's doing to her employees, like what she could do to her. I mean, she did it to some customers too. Bernadette had said that there were people that went in that didn't have a YouTube channel that were just doing it because like as a hobby, and they couldn't finish their investigation and they were trying to get their money back. So I mean, if she could do it to her employees, what makes you think that she's not doing it to her paying customers? So I mean, I feel like just that type of behavior can be scary because you don't know what's going on. So I'm kind of glad that they did decide to not renew her business license. That is super good news. Heather Salvatore, there is a DUI video that's out there if you guys haven't caught it yet. I know of it, but I've seen clips of it, but I haven't seen it in its entirety. I haven't had a chance, so I'm going to do that. So there is one where she got arrested for, yes, she did get arrested for DUI. And there is also a video out there on YouTube about it. She was kind of like telling the police officers, "You're boring me." She's saying like they put her in handcuffs and stuff like that. She was going crazy there too. So Kyle, sorry to hear. Ready to chill. Father was in a car accident today. The worry and stress hasn't gone away yet. Oh, I'm sorry to hear, Kyle. Let's send some positive energy to Kyle, guys. Sorry to hear, Kyle. I hope your father is okay and it wasn't too serious. D Nice, I agree. You can't fix that level of stubborn. You can't. You can't. You can't. She feels entitled. She feels like she's above everyone else. You can't help someone that doesn't see that they need help. So I'm hoping maybe one day that she does see. I mean, she's been in and out of psychiatric hospitals too, but nothing. So this is good news. So I'm glad that they did not renew the business license. And she is crazy. Carol goes, she acted so entitled on that video. That's how I've always talked about her. And before even that video came out, I felt like she was entitled just by the way she spoke. Like I've never seen her speak, like on video, but just how she spoke in her posts on Facebook. It just like that tone. I mean, sometimes I know you can't hear the tone, but you can read the tone if you get what I'm saying. And just like the words she used and stuff like that. And I've always felt that she was like she feels like she's entitled. And I'm so glad that this is happening and honestly, people, do not because I don't know what's going to happen from now until the end of the month. So do not book a tour because you may not get your money back too. Rooster, how's it going? Carol goes, I get it. Her actions are the world owes me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, you guys, I'm entitled. Even if I had a DUI, I did no wrong type of thing. Hugs go snooty and nervy. Yeah, like she's just I don't know. She makes me crazy reading what she's doing. And guys, if you have a story or a website that you would like to share or think I'm interested in, I would be interested in. D Nice has dropped the email, graysonreport13@gmail.com. I may share it on my next live streams. Shelly, how's it going? Wendy goes, it's a proper analysis. Lisa, great. But I'm sure there's going to be more somewhere. We're going to hear more about her. This isn't the end of her, but I'm hoping this this is going to be the end to the Conjuring house as a business, and maybe it'll prompt her to sell, but I doubt it. She is just too stubborn. She's super stubborn. All right, guys, I am going a little true crime-ish tonight. I have a lot of articles that are strange and unusual today, so I thought maybe besides the movie news, and I thought, well, maybe this will go into my strange and unusual because Manson was strange, uh, to say the least, and this was one of the most horrific murders in history. I want to say in history. There's probably more than just this one, but this is probably one of the more known murders that had happened. Especially the Sharon Tate murder, which was not too far from here. I think, yeah, I think the house isn't too far from where I'm at now. And I know a paranormal show went there to investigate as well, to the house. I think, I don't know who had the door in their music studio. Someone had the front door to the Sharon Tate house and Roman Polanski house, in their studio. But I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. So during the Manson murders, Charles Manson's followers gruesomely killed actress Sharon Tate and 6 others in Los Angeles on August 9th and 10th in 1969. The Manson murder of 1969 brought a nation entrenched in hippiedom and free love to its knees. Where there was once hope for a brighter future, there was now a black hole of despair and literal disbelief. The slaughter of Hollywood elites by devotees to cult leaders Charles Manson was simply too perplexing to process. If actress Sharon Tate could be murdered while 8.5 months pregnant, all bets were off. And this was sad. She was 8.5 months pregnant. So she had lost her life, and so did her unborn child. And I always felt whenever I hear about the story, that always gets me, because I'm like, wow, that is heart-wrenching. On August 8th, Manson's followers Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Casbin approached Tate's home at 10050 Cielo Drive in Los Angeles, California. I wonder how far that is from me. Hold on, I'm going to look. I think it's pretty close. Give me a second. Let's see. Oh, I put 0. It's 1050. Give me a second, guys. I'm just curious. I think it's like near here. I know the Los Feliz house is near here as well. I mean, it's half an hour now. Not as near as I thought it was. It's a 34-minute drive from here. But still close. Where on Manson's orders there were to totally destroy everyone in the house, as gruesome as you can. And this is a perfect example of cults and how that, I don't know how people could get brainwashed when they're in a cult. I feel like also too, what was it? David Koresh was another example of how people have been brainwashed in a cult. And that's why I do not like cults. There's still, I'm sure there's some now today that we don't even know about that people have been pulled into, besides Scientology, because we do know about Scientology. But there's probably others that we don't even know about where people are being pulled in and suckered and stuck and don't know any different, and may not even know what they're listening to because they're down and out. A lot of these people are down and out and they're looking for you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, unfortunately. And that's how some of these people, I think, get into this situation. So it's kind of sad when you see people in that situation, especially when a lot of times you can't get out of them either, and it's very hard to get out of them. Gruesome was an understatement. The Manson family members not only murdered Sharon Tate and her unborn child, but also celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, aspiring writer Wojciech Frykowski. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name. And a young salesman named Stephen Parent, who had the misfortune of being on the property that night, so he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. To make the crime scene even more horrific, Atkins wrote "pig" on the front door of the home in Tate's blood, but Manson wasn't pleased. He was purportedly angry that the killer had been sloppy. From police investigating the scene at 10050 Cielo Drive on August 9th, the motive for such a brutal crime was initially elusive. Police officers, investigators, and members of the press were confounded by what they saw. Emily Parkinson's goes, the house is gone, but a guy built a house and says it's haunted by the victims. Jason and Zach have both done an episode on the location. I've seen, I haven't seen I might have seen the Jason one. I've seen the Zach one. That's the one that I know of. Thank you for confirming, because I knew there was a house there, but I didn't know it was they rebuilt a house on the property. They do think the guy that owns a house that's on the property, there you go, I'll reiterate it, does say that it is haunted. Shelly goes, Rose and Leno LaBianca. D Nice goes, 50 minutes for me. Heather Salvatore goes, there's a lot of others that were missing from his followers. Shelly Fitzgerald goes, before that, he killed the La Biancas. Some early theories relied on the seemingly negative impact that drugs had on the culture of the 1960s America. It was a time of hippiedom, I guess how they of the year of the hippie. So it was all about free love, drugs, and all that kind of stuff during that time. As though the gruesome murders of Tate and her friends were merely the result of a drug deal gone wrong, but investigators soon uncovered a much more harrowing truth. As investigators grappled with the scene of the Tate murders, Manson allegedly sent his loyalists after Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, as Shelley had mentioned in the chat, a couple who were not Hollywood elites at all, but business owners in the grocery and clothing industry. This time, however, he went along for the ride, still aggravated at the messiness of the Tate murders the night prior. Rosemary's children, Suzanne, 21, and Frank, 15, came home later to discover the grisly scene. Oh my God! Imagine being 21 and 15 and seeing coming into your house and seeing that scene. Oh, you cannot unsee that at all. Their parents were bound, gagged, and stabbed to death, and the misspelled words Helter Skelter written in their blood on the fridge. There seemed to be no real purpose for the La Bianca murders other than Manson allegedly wanting to show his followers the proper way to commit murder by not telling the victims they were about to be killed. This man was crazy. He's like, you guys did wrong. I am going to show you how to do it. Like, what the hell is that crap? Like, that guy is crazy. Well, I mean, we already knew he was crazy, but just reading this, it makes him more crazy. He allegedly assured that the La Biancas that they would be robbed but not harmed. Instead, he had his devotee stab the couple with a chrome-plated bayonet, carved the word war into Leno LaBianca's chest, and leave the bloody crime scene to be discovered by the couple's children, which totally sucks. And even though many of those responsible were apprehended before Christmas of that year, the echoes of their gruesome deeds reverberated through Hollywood hills and canyons for years to come. Even now, more than 50 years later, the Manson murders of 1969 have a powerful impact on American culture, history, and the country's collective memory. Okay, so the door, because the front door from the house at 10050 Cielo Drive in Los Angeles, California, where Sharon Tate was murdered and where Pig was written on that door in her blood, was auctioned off and is now owned by Christopher Moore. It was Trent Reznor, because I could not think of who it was. Trent Reznor bought the property in 1992 and took the door with him when he moved out a year later. He installed it at his Nothing Studios in New Orleans, because that was bugging the hell out of me. The house was rented by Sharon Tate and her husband, filmmaker Roman Polanski, in the summer of 1969. Christopher Moore, like I had mentioned earlier, bought the door at auction and originally wanted to install it in an old church he owned, but was blocked by the historical district. So Christopher Moore is a New Orleans artist, and he is the one that currently has the door from the original house. And it was Trent Reznor who had it before, because I couldn't remember and it was bugging me right now. Wendy goes, I don't drink the Kool-Aid. Yes, don't. Emily Parkinson's goes, he was trying to start racial wars. Delia Lux, what is going on? Charles Manson before the murders. Charles Manson was born Charles Miles Maddox in Cincinnati, Ohio on November 12, 1934 to a 15-year-old runaway named Kathleen. While she was pregnant, she married a man named William Manson, not the biological father of her child, but the marriage did not last long. And when Charles was just 5 years old, Kathleen landed herself in jail for theft and assault. This is his mother, Kathleen Maddox. She looks like a seemingly normal person. She just had Charles Manson super young. And when Charles Manson was just 5 years old, she ended up in jail. Charles Manson would eventually follow in his mother's footsteps, encountered trouble with the law. He first spent time in prison as a teenager in 1951, and he was described in probation reports as a person with a marked degree of rejection, instability, and psychic trauma. In 1955, he married 15-year-old hospital waitress Rosaline Jean Willis. I'm assuming that was okay back then. I don't, because now, yeah. Was it? I mean, I'm assuming it was, you were allowed to marry underage back then, maybe with parent permission. The 20-year-old ex-convict soon moved his pregnant wife to Los Angeles with him, but failed to consider that driving a stolen vehicle across state lines was a federal offense. The relationship soon came to an end in 1958. Meanwhile, Manson continued to get in trouble for various offenses, and in 1961, he was sentenced to 10 years in a federal prison on McNeil Island in Washington State, this time for federal check forgery, and he soon began looking into Scientology and learning how to play guitar. Scientology. Huh. I had no idea. That was when he decided he wanted to be a world-famous rock star. Manson was released early from prison on March 21st, 1967. By then, he developed a knack for getting people to listen to him, as well as his belief that he was destined for greatness. Before long, he found true believers. Sorry, guys. I have crazy things. D Nice is like 15-year-old. I'm like, yes. Shelly's like, who knew? Emily Parkinson goes, Scientology cult. That's why I was like, that explains it. want to give a shout out to, real quick, Heather Salvatore for your PayPal. Also want to give a shout out to I don't want to say your whole name, for your cash apps as well, for love your live streams, Lisa. Thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Heather Salvatore. Hearts for both. Thank you, ladies. I do appreciate the support. You are awesome. Shelly goes, I know, that's what I was thinking right when I was reading that. Elvis Presley dated Priscilla real young, but she did have, which is weird that her father would allow that to happen, because her father was military, right? And then I guess Elvis Presley at the time was in the military. Don't quote me. I'm just going off of like some of the documentaries and the movies I've seen. And I know movies take liberties, so I don't know how accurate it is. But in the last one that I had seen, I think it was Priscilla, the dad was like, okay. I was like, what the hell? Like, a military dad is usually super protective, because I know I had one, is super protective of their daughter. And my dad would have never, it doesn't matter if the dude was in the military, my dad would have done a background check on the dude. He would not have let me go out with a dude that was older than me, even though he's in the military. It was weird. It was like her father allowed her to do it. And I was like, what? That's not a military father. Like, how is that possible? Oh, Hug. Thank you. Hug is Heidi. Thank you, Hugs. I didn't know who Heidi was. Well, now I know. Thank you, Hugs. I appreciate that. Thank you for that Cash App. Hearts for Heather Salvatore again, and Hugs, aka Heidi. Thank you, Hugs and Heather. Amassing the Manson family cult. The Manson family may have looked like your standard group of California hippies at first glance, but the ragtag band of followers was far from it. Their peace and love lifestyle was tainted with a dose of death. After Charles Manson's release from prison in 1967, the charismatic figurehead amassed about 100 followers, mostly middle-class young women who were drawn to Manson's radical views and penchant for free love and hallucinogenic drugs, particularly LSD, which had also been used by the U.S. government in mind control experiments. The capabilities for psychological influence benefited Manson greatly. Here's a picture of the Manson family at Spawn Ranch on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Mostly women. The family first moved to San Francisco, but after spending the summer of 1968 living with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys outside of Los Angeles, later they settled on a ranch owned by George Spawn on the outskirts of LA. Spawn Ranch became their de facto compound, a gathering place for acid trips, group sex, Manson's soliloquies on a supposedly imminent race war, and Manson's reinforcing his belief that he was the second coming of Christ. Kind of sounds like what's his face? Can't think of his name right now. Oh my god, I went brain farted and I said David Koresh. Sounds like David Koresh, kind of similar. Because the only thing I was remembering was Waco, Texas, and then I couldn't remember David Koresh. It sounds very similar to David Koresh, but it wasn't just drugs that shaped Manson or molded his disciplines into the loyalist killers they became. He obsessed over the Beatles' track Helter Skelter, which became a hypnotizing mantra for the group, as well as a slogan for sorts of their supposedly God-given mission. Though the song was written about an amusement park ride, the Manson family was purportedly convinced that it was about the so-called imminent race war. So this is the pictured above is the Spawn Ranch, where they kind of had their compound in the late 60s. Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Linda Casbian, and Leslie Van Houten were among the cult of family members, and all played a role in the murders at the Tate and La Bianca homes a year later. I need to fish. What is up? goes, my dad was military, but he always said I could handle myself when I dated. Go figure. My dad was yeah, my dad would do background checks. I am not kidding. He did. I am not kidding. Because my dad was a military man, but he was also into law enforcement. He was like a jack of all trades. He did everything. But yeah. The start of the Manson family murders. The Tate murders epitomized the Manson family murderous mission with the vile slaughtering of Sharon Tate and her unborn baby, pushing this particular incident out over the edge of gruesome. Though more people would be murdered that night and the following day, the sheer grisliness of that crime and the celebrity aspect overshadowed the others. At the time, Sharon Tate was married to the infamous director Roman Polanski, who had courted the actress vigorously while they were working on the Fearless Vampire Killers. Although Tate had been dating hairstylist Jay Sebring since 1964, after the movie wrapped, she told him that she and Polanski were in love. Still, Tate and Sebring remained friends. Here's a picture of Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate on their wedding. I like her the bows in her hair. It's super cool. And then he's got like this Austin Power garb vibe going on. That's kind of cool. Tate and Polanski married in London on January 20th of 1968. Later in February of 1968, they began renting the home at 10050 Cielo Drive, which unbeknownst to them was on Charles Manson radar ever since Dennis Wilson had introduced him to music producer Terry Mecker, the home's previous renter. So this is Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys and renowned music producer Terry Meckler, which I didn't know, he, I guess, was renting the home before Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. Manson never forgot that address, especially since Melcher rejected Manson's music. On March 23rd, 1960, I did not know about this part. On March 23rd, 1969, he returned to the house looking for Melcher. Instead, he found the house owner, Rudolph Altobelli, who told him that Melcher had moved away. In response, Manson tried to make an appointment with Altobelli, who worked as a personal agent for performers. According to Altobelli, Sharon Tate came to the door to see what was going on. She purportedly saw Manson, and Manson saw her. She never could have guessed that he would orchestrate her murder. Shelley goes, I remember when that happened. I lived in the South Bay then. Delay Lex goes, no way, I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. I didn't know. Honestly, I did not know the reason why he chose the house. I just assumed he just picked the house just out of random. Like it wasn't planned. But he had a chip on his shoulder because the music producer that was renting the house had rejected him because he wanted to be a rock star. The gruesome Sharon Tate murders. And this is the beautiful Sharon Tate. Months later, with summer coming to an end, Sharon Tate for far along in her pregnancy and Roman Polanski working on the Day of the Dolphin in London, Tate filled her home with friends. Altobelli has also hired William Gerritsen as a caretaker of the property while the couple was on the lease. However, Gerritsen lived in the guest house, not the main house. On August 8th, 1969, Tate went out for dinner with coffee heiress Abigail Folger's boyfriend, Wojciech Frykowski, and Jay Sebring before the group returned to the home for what was supposed to be a relaxing night. Pictured here is Abigail Folger and her boyfriend, Wojciech Frykowski, who were also victims of the Manson family murders. Meanwhile, an 18-year-old salesman named Stephen Parent, who knew William Gerritsen, also faithfully planned to visit the property that same night to offer him a good deal on audio equipment. By the early hours of August 9th, Tate, her unborn baby, Folger, Frykowski, Sebring, and Parent had all been violently murdered by the Manson family. Only Gretzkin, safe inside the guest house and entirely unaware of the events unfolding that night, survived the massacre unscathed. How could he? I wonder how far the guest house was, because I was like, when you hear something, I'm usually, but this is kind of like one of those big Hollywood mansions, so maybe it's not, but I'm thinking a lot of times the guest house isn't too far from the main house. But maybe in this case, maybe the guest house was further, so he couldn't hear what was going on. Because I would think, I do not want to show that picture. I would think he would have heard something or something. Emily Parkinson's goes, one of the Beach Boys songs was supposedly a Manson song. Carol goes, I always knew there was some kind of connection as to why she was killed. Shelley saying Terry Melcher was related to, Doris Day. Heather Salvatore goes, the old renter. Wow, exactly. I had no clue. It was later learned that Manson had allegedly ordered Charles Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Casbian to invade the home and murder everyone inside. By some accounts, they were instructed to totally destroy everyone in the house as gruesome as they can, or as you can. Just a couple of weeks earlier, Manson had purportedly slashed musician Gary Hyman's face with a samurai sword. His disciples, mainly Bobby Busole, sewed up Hyman's wounds with dental floss and tortured him for days until Busole brutally stabbed him to death. Manson reportedly wanted the murders at 10050 Cielo Drive to be even more macabre, make it a real nice murder, just as bad as you've ever seen, and get all their money. That is crazy. Parent was the first to die. After the killers climbed nearby telephone poles and cut the wires, they found Parent in his car. Watson fatally shot him. While Casbian stood watch at the front gate, the others went inside. Frykowski was the first to encounter the Manson family member inside the home. He demanded to know who they were, to which he received the most terrifying answer imaginably from Watson. I am the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business. And you got to think around this time also, too, they didn't really lock their doors. So I'm assuming that their door was open and anybody could have just walked in. I mean, nowadays, everyone locks their doors. I'm guessing everyone locks their doors. There may be that one person that doesn't. I mean, I know I do, especially with a lot of stuff that I see on my Citizens app, which tells me all like the crime that's going on in the city. I'm definitely keeping my doors locked. Pictured here is Linda Casbian. And I don't know who. Oh, the sheriff's deputy is the one on the. I was like, who's the person next to him? Duh. This is Linda Casbian. She was involved in the Manson murders, and she was also part of his posse. What happened next was nothing short of horrific. The Manson family, led by Watson, gathered all of their victims into the living room. Frykowski was bludgeoned 13 times, stabbed 51 times, and pew-pewed twice. Sebring was stabbed 7 times and pew-pewed. Folger was stabbed 28 times. I'm already dead, she reportedly said, as Krenwinkel kept stabbing her. Sharon Tate begged the Manson family to let her live long enough to have her baby. Instead, they stabbed her 16 times. Atkins then used Tate's blood to write pig on the home's front door, determined to make the scene as witchy and gruesome as possible, as Manson had purportedly ordered. This is Charles Tex Watson. The next morning, the world would come to discover just how well the Manson family had followed that order during the murders. In the meantime, however, Charles Manson allegedly ordered his murderous goons to kill 2 more people, Leno and Rose Mary LaBianca. Shelley goes, you didn't have to lock your doors back then? Just an update with Kyle. I appreciate the kind vibes. He's home now and resting. He has enough painkillers and THC in him to sleep through the night. I am glad that he is home and resting, and I hope for a quick recovery, Kyle. Hearts for Kyle, guys. Send him some positive vibes. Carol girl goes, the only time we were robbed was when we locked the doors. So that is weird. The murders of Leno and Rosemary Bianca at the hands of the Manson family. Their residence was in Los Feliz, which is not too far from here. We also have the Los Feliz murder house as well, the infamous house. There's someone that bought that house, but because of all the happenings that has happened in that house, and they're trying to remodel, it seems like that house will never finish because of all the paranormal activity that occurs there. Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, both successful business owners, were on their way back to Los Angeles after a short trip to Lake Isabella on August 9th. Susan, Rosemary's 21-year-old daughter from a previous marriage, was along for the ride. Her 15-year-old brother, Frank, stayed behind with his friends, family to enjoy his relaxing break by the lake for one more night. By the time the LaBiancas hit the road, news of the murders at Cielo Drive had hit the airwaves. The family listened attentively to the radio the whole drive back, dropping off Susan at her apartment before returning home. According to Vincent Bugliosi, who prosecuted the Manson family and wrote Helter Skelter, the true story of the Manson murders, Susan later recalled that her mother told a friend the following shortly before the incident. Someone is coming in our house while we're away. Things have been gone through and the dogs are outside the house when they should be inside. When Frank got home at around 8:30 p.m. the following night, he noticed that his stepfather's speedboat was in the driveway. That was unusual. Leno didn't like leaving his boat outside overnight. Something was wrong. He then saw all the shades in the house drawn shut. Nobody answered his knock at the door. He called out and nothing but silence greeted him. Frank was now extremely concerned and walked to a payphone to call the house. There was no answer, so he called his sister Suzanne. Together with her boyfriend Joe Dorgan, they went back to the house at 3301 Waverly Drive in Los Feliz, neighborhood of Los Angeles. They found a way back. They found a back door open and went inside and discovered the LaBianca's dead body. Leno LaBianca was found with a cord around his neck and a bloody pillowcase over his head. He also had an object sticking out of his stomach. Rosemary had a pillowcase over her head and a cord around her neck. Frank Struthers Jr. Pictured here. He was 15 at the time. He found the body of his stepfather after coming home from a trip. I can't imagine being 15 and seeing your parents in that condition. You can never erase that. I'm sure he's had nightmares about that I know I would. Horrified and devastated, the three quickly ran over to a neighborhood's house where they immediately contacted the police. While local authorities had been completely enveloped by the Tate murders on Cielo Drive all day, their investigation was about to get a lot stranger. Yeah, Wendy, I guess what clued him off was the boat was on a trailer left out on the driveway, and I guess his stepfather would never do that. He wouldn't leave it out overnight. So that's what kind of clued him that something might be wrong. Delay Alex goes, a burglar would always try the windows. Exactly. Investigate the blood-soaked Tate murders when housekeeper Winifred Chapman arrived at 10050 Cielo Drive the morning after the Tate murders around 8 a.m. She expected it to be just another day. That is until she found the place covered in blood and ran into a neighbor's house. Upon seeing a body on the lawn, they called the police. The first LAPD officers on the scene, Jerry DeRosa, William Weisenhunt, and Robert Burbridge, were quick to inspect the property and the victims. After seeing parents' body in his vehicle, the authorities spotted the dead bodies of a man and a woman on the lawn. Both victims had multiple stab wounds, and the man also had several head injuries. Inside the home, police officers discovered a dead, heavily pregnant woman covered in blood with a rope around her neck that extended over a rafter in the ceiling, and a dead man also covered in blood at the other end of the rope. None of the murder victims, later determined to be Tate, Sebring, Folger, and Frykowski, had their pulse checked. There was no need. Authorities did, however, find Garrett Garretson outside and arrested him. He had no idea what had occurred. Suspiciously unscathed, he was taken in for interrogation, though his subsequent lie detector test likely would have been admissible evidence if he passed with flying colors. He passed with flying colors, and police moved on to other persons of interest. The early hours of the investigation, though, centered on theories of a drug deal gone wrong or a drug-laden party turned violent. And this is on the right. That's Jay Sebring. He's one of the victims. Apparently, at one time, Sharon Tate and Jay were dating, but they still remained friends even after she married Roman Polanski. Police did find marijuana, hashish, the C word, and MDMA on the property, but the sheer violence of the murders led cops to abandon their initial theories. Polanski's manager, William Tennant, was playing tennis when he got the call that his friend's pregnant wife had been butchered. He was tasked with the horrifying responsibility of identifying all the dead bodies at the house. Tennant had no idea who parent was, but identified Frykowski, Tate, Folger, and Sebring. Before long, there was so many cop cars and journalists on Cielo Drive that police officers and reporters were actively detangling themselves in order to maneuver up and down the road. It is like a battlefield up there, Sergeant Stanley Clorman told reporters, and I'm not going to show that picture. I am surprised they are allowed to have that picture on there because it shows the body, the actual body of Abigail Folgers, and I'm not going to show it to you guys. I was surprised that was on there. For Tennant, the time to call his friends had come. Roman, there's been a disaster in a house. Your house, Tennant said. Sharon is dead, and Wojtek and Gibby and Jay. Shocked, Polanski demanded to know what had happened, initially thinking that there had been a fire, but then he learned the awful truth. So here is that door that I was talking about earlier that's owned by New Orleans, owned by Christopher Moore. It was also owned by Trent Reznor. He had it in his studio for a bit. And you could still see the pig on the door that was written with his late wife's blood. Polanski flew back to the U.S. and barricaded himself in a hotel room under a doctor's supervision. The police asked him a few questions, but mostly left him alone. Polanski later addressed the press in a short statement and appeared in a bizarre Life magazine photo shoot where he posed in front of the blood-scrawled door of the house where his wife was butchered. That is kind of weird. Gunner Girl goes, so gruesome it was. Delia Lux, oh my goodness, too coincidental, too ugly of a murder spree still to this day. It was. I mean, it's the most, I want to say it's infamous. It's the most infamous one. Everybody has heard of it at least once. Like those people that were murdered were innocent. It had nothing to do with the initial I want to say they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It had to do with the record producer or a producer that had rented the house previous to them. And then that didn't accept Manson's musical talent, and that pissed him off. The horrific La Bianca crime scene. The Manson family again tried to be gruesome with the La Biancas, but even more so this time around. And it also said earlier in this article that Manson didn't like how the Tate murders went, so that is why the La Biancas were targeted. It was kind of like, let me show you how it's done type of thing, which shows you how, I mean, we already knew he's crazy, but it really shows you how crazy he is. But even more so this time around, some sources state that Manson was angry about the sloppiness of the Tate murders, while others suggest that Manson believed the killers had not caused enough panic among the victims. I believe they told him you're going to die with the Tate murders. In a parole hearing, Manson family member Leslie Van Houten later explained that Tex Watson and Charles Manson himself broke into the La Bianca residence and tied the married couple up. Pictured here is Leslie Van Houten and Patricia Krenwinkel. Tex told Pat and I to go into the kitchen and get knives, and we took Mrs. LaBianca into the bedroom and put a pillowcase over her head, Van Houten said. I wrapped the lamp cord around her head to hold the pillowcase on her head. I went to hold her down. When Rosemary LaBianca heard her husband's screams and called out to him, Van Houten and Krenwinkel brutally stabbed her. Tinkle Tits, thank you for being a member of the Wolf Pack for 15 months. Hearts for Tinkle Tits. And what is up, Tinkle Tits? How's it going? According to the Toronto Sun, Van Houten admitted this herself in 1994. I went in and Mrs. LaBianca was laying on the floor and I stabbed her, she confessed, in the lower back and around 16 times. Officers later found Leno LaBianca on the living room floor of the couple's home with a bloody pillowcase over his head, a cord tied around his neck, and his hands tied behind his back with a leather piece of underwear. Rosemary was found lying on her bedroom floor in her favorite dress with blue and white horizontal stripes, which was bunched up over her head, exposing her naked body. Evidence indicate that she had tried to crawl away from her killers, tragically only tightening the cord around her neck. What happened after this gruesome murder? The case against the Manson family began largely due to Susan Atkins, who bragged about murdering Sharon Tate while in jail for car theft. Usually that happens. Usually that is how criminals are caught, and it's by something stupid. And this is no different. She was bragging about it while she was in jail. By 1970, Atkins, Manson, and some of Manson's other followers were put on trial for murder. They were eventually found guilty of killing 9 people total, but some believe they were responsible for even more deaths. Eerily, some theories emerged that Manson himself was a scapegoat, as there was no evidence that he personally killed anyone himself. There's also no definite proof that he forced his followers to go through with the Tate LaBianca killings. But in the end, his followers were able to convince authorities that he had indeed been the mastermind behind the massacre. As for a motive, Manson purportedly hoped to frame the Black Panthers for the murders so that the race war he told his followers could begin. Manson's followers also claimed that they wanted to do a crime that would shock the world, that the world would have to stand up and take notice. Nearly every Manson family member involved in the killings, including Manson himself, was initially sentenced to death, but they were spared in 1972 when California commuted all death sentences to life imprisonments. Leslie Van Houten, who was only 19 when she helped kill Rosemary LaBianca, and she was the youngest of the Manson family members involved in the murder. She had once been the homecoming queen at her high school. To this day, her participation in the LaBianca killings continues to stir up discussion revolving around how much personal agency he had over her actions. California Governor Jerry Brown denied her parole in 2016 and 2018. Oh my God. Both her role in this extraordinary, brutal crime and her inability to explain her willing participation in such horrific violence cannot be overlooked and led me to believe she remains an unacceptable risk to society if released. Brown explained at the time, thank goodness they did not parole them. I don't think they paroled any of them, to be honest with you. The parole board tried to release Van Houten once again in January of 2019, but Governor Gavin Newsom followed Brown's lead and denied it. Some critics felt that this was merely political, while others felt she deserved to remain in prison. She was eventually paroled. Oh no, she was paroled. She was eventually paroled in 2023 after the California Court of Appeal ruled in her favor, and Newsom agreed not to block her parole. I call Newsom's Newsom. And also, too, I don't know who the district attorney at the time, if it was, who was the district attorney in, I think it was, what's his face? Let me see. All right, it's Gascon. So Gascon, the people voted him out. So this is his last term. But Gascon here in Los Angeles, he is the LA district attorney, and he is known for being soft because he does let everyone go. So that explains it. why she might have been let go. I personally think they should remain in there because of the brutality and gruesomeness of the murder and how crazy it was. But it does explain why she was released because, like I said, Gascon is known to be a softie and he does release people. I know I've mentioned this before. I think a 16-year-old went into jail. I don't know for what reason. He let her go and she committed another crime and she's back in there. So it's crazy. It explains a lot. Susan Atkins was diagnosed with brain cancer and died in prison in 2009, and Charles Manson later died in prison in 2017 at the age of 83. Watson and Krenwinkel remain behind bars to this day, and Krenwinkel is now the longest serving female inmate in California history. So, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten. Leslie Van Houten was released in last year. Susan Atkins, as the article said, had passed away from brain cancer, I believe it said, and then Patricia Krenwinkel is still serving time. Lynette Squeaky Frum, a Manson family member who wasn't involved in the murder but fervently supported Charles Manson and the others at trial, is a free citizen despite her own crime. Frum later unsuccessfully tried to SA President Gerald Ford in 1975. She was imprisoned, released in 2009, and moved to upstate New York. Linda Kasbian, who served as the lookout during the Tate murders, was the star witness for the prosecution and thus was given immunity. When the Manson family praised Manson as a Jesus Christ-like figure, she called him the devil. In the end, she was crucial to the prosecution's case. I doubt we would have convicted Manson without her. Bugliosi said, in the end, the devil lived the rest of his life behind bars. His terrifying mythologized persona continues to serve as fodder for rebellious youth culture, art, and true crime, and haunts Hollywood to this day. Wendy, what about the governor in California up for re-election? He is, but I don't think it's until I saw a number, but I am not sure. It looks like 2026. So he's got another year, unfortunately. And I'm hoping people vote him out because he's dragging California to the ground. But I could have sworn, that's why I had to look it up. I could have sworn somebody said 2028. 2026 is a lot better number. I mean, we have the highest gas prices here in California. I don't talk politics here, but we do have the highest price gas prices. People did vote for it a couple of years ago for gas tax to fix the roads. And that's part of it. Newsom has said that he's going to try to lower it, but then there's another report that gas prices may go up. That's why you do see a lot of people in California driving electric cars. 90%. That's why I do that. You know how you see TikTok videos, show me that you live here or show me that you live in California without telling me you live in California. That's how you know you're in California because of all the electrical cars you see. But Tinkle Tits goes, I paid $4.21 yesterday in San Diego. That is not too bad, but that is high. I remember when gas was $3.50 a gallon. Heck, forget that. I remember years ago when gas was $1 a gallon. Years ago. That's when I first started driving years ago. It was $1 a gallon. And then I remember it was like a good steady like $2 and something cents. And then it just kept rising and rising. 4.21 is considered cheap now. But I think I paid like 4.39 or something like that. It's better than what at some point in Los Angeles, and it was around I would say around like popular areas, there was gas that was marked at $7 a gallon. Tinkle Tits goes, Jules, what is up? Tinkle Tits goes, I remember gas was 5 in 2025. Wendy goes, we're under 3 here. Matthew goes, I paid $2.88 earlier this month here in Florida. That's not bad, Matthew. That's cheap. I do know too, we have very high car registration prices. I'm realizing that too. Shelly's paying $5.37. That is high. I think I went to fill up yesterday and it was like I said, I think it was like $4.39. Lewis is lucky because he has an electric car. He has a Tesla. I have a hybrid, luckily, so it's not too bad, but I do drive a lot. So, unfortunately, yeah, I can feel luckily it's a little a 4-banger, so it's not a gas guzzler and it is a hybrid. So luckily, and it's still running good with 120,000 miles. I'm going to knock on wood. So I haven't had, Kyle goes, when I first started driving, it was 63 cents a liter. Now it's $2.79 a liter. Nerd Report goes, it's 7 gallons here near me. I did mention that, Nerd Report. Jules goes, Lisa, what the heck is going on tonight? We were talking about the Manson family murders. I just finished it. We did a little movie news. Now we're talking about gas prices. I don't know how I went into that rabbit hole. But Carol goes $2.97 a gallon here. I'm about to go the electric route because of the gas prices. I just gotta say, I'm working on it. Carol, you are lucky. $2.97 a gallon here. Oh my God, I would take that any day. Any day. All right, guys, I know my next article is not spooky, but I do know we have a few Titanic fans here in the chat. I'm a Titanic fan. Not the movie, but I also do like the story. It's a part of history and it's something I do. I love the movie. It's probably one of my favorite movies. I can watch it over and over again. A postcard written by a British businessman just before settling off on the Titanic sells for $25,300. The postcard, penned by first-class passenger Richard William Smith, was sent from Ireland during the ship's brief stop there on April 11th, 1912, just 3 days before it sank. Thank you, Gunner Girl. So here is the postcard. That is super cool. It's got the Titanic on it. Roughly 80 hours before British businessman Richard William Smith perished in the sinking of the Titanic, he asked a friend to send a postcard for him. Smith's postcard arrived at its destination, while Smith, of course, did not. On April 15th of 1912, he perished alongside 1,500 others when the ship sank in the North Atlantic. But though Smith died on that terrible frigid night, his final postcard has survived all these years. This month, it sold for £20,000, which is $25,300 at auction. The story of the Titanic passenger Richard William Smith and his final postcard. It's haunting in a way. According to Henry Aldridge and Son, the auction house that sold the postcard, Richard William Smith was a first-class Titanic passenger who boarded the Doom Ship in Southampton, England on April 10th, 1912. A tea merchant, Smith was traveling on the behalf of his employer, Renock, Nephew and Company. During the first 2 days of the journey, as the ship traveled from Southampton to Cherbourg, France, and then to Queenstown, Ireland, Smith was accompanied by a family friend named Emily Nichols, a widow whose husband had also worked in the tea trade. It's been speculated that Smith and Nichols were photographed during these early days as they walked along the A-deck promenade, though this remains unconfirmed. They're thinking this is them on, this is a picture of them on the ship, but it has not been confirmed. When Nichols disembarked the ship at Queenstown on April 11th, she agreed to send a postcard for Smith addressed to a woman named Olive Dakin in Norwich, England, and written in pencil. Smith's postcard read, "Have had a fine run around the Queenstown, just leaving for the land of stars and stripes." Nichols mailed the postcard while Smith continued on his voyage to New York City. But late in the night on April 14th, 1912, the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic and the unsinkable ship sank. Among the first cabin passengers on the Titanic whose names has not been accounted for is Mr. R.W. Smith, who was connected with a large tea importing firm in London. The Boston Globe reported a few days after the sinking on April 18th of 1912. Mr. Smith had made several trips to the United States and had many friends in the tea business in this country. Smith's body was never recovered, but his final postcard survived. Panda, what is up? The sale of Richard William Smith's final postcard and other Titanic artifacts. More than a century after it was delivered to Olive Dakin, Richard William Smith's postcard made it into the collection of Henry Aldridge and Son, who put the Titanic artifact up for auction on November 16th. Though the auction house expected the postcard to sell for between £6,000 and £10,000, which is roughly $7,600 or to $12,700, it ended up selling for £20,000, which is $25,300. Smith's postcard was sold alongside several other artifacts from the RMS Titanic, which include photographs, a pocket watch, and a second watch that was gifted by Titanic survivors to author Henry Rodstron, the captain of the RMS Carpathia, which sailed to the rescue of the Titanic. As remarkable as these other Titanic items are, Richard William Smith's postcard stands out as a particularly haunting artifact from just before one of the tragic disasters in modern history. I don't know. I mean, if I had the money, I don't know if I would want to own an artifact from the Titanic because, I mean, you have a possibility of it being haunted. May not be, but I would think it would be. But at the same time, it would be cool to have an artifact from the Titanic. My grandmother, she was born in 1905, and I could always remember my grandmother was alive during the sinking of the Titanic. That must have been, I mean, not the actual sinking. The actual sinking was tragic because they did think that ship was unsinkable. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But to be alive during that time, because it's something I've always been fascinated with, and I would think it would be cool to read, to be there and read and have that newspaper and read the headlines and stuff like that. Jules goes, "It's a graveyard, leave them in peace." I agree that too, because it's like let them rest. I do agree with that too. Just let them be. Let them be, let them find peace. Hug goes, "The Marine Museum here in Fall River, Massachusetts has lots of Titanic artifacts. I love it." I know they had, I don't know if they still do, they had in Vegas at the Luxor, they had a Titanic exhibit. And I also know there is like a Titanic, I don't know what city it's in though, or what state. There's like a Titanic museum as well. I know it's back east, but I don't remember what state. Where they have like the temperature of the water at the time that the Titanic sank. I cannot think of, and I know the Ghost Adventures went there to do an investigation, but I can't remember what city or state. But all right, guys, without further ado, I am going to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I will give you a few minutes to look for Skeleduck. Kimberly Ann Hart, what is up? Angel, how's it going? Panda Bear goes, it was the one in Cali, I think. No, I don't think it was a California one. I think it was like in Tennessee or something, or Missouri. Thank you, Carol. Branson, Missouri. That's exactly. I was thinking Tennessee or Missouri. It wasn't in Panda Bear. It wasn't in California. It was in Missouri. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. If I'm ever in that area, I'd like to go check it out. It looks kind of cool. Oh, Panda Bear. I think you're thinking of the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary kind of looks like the Titanic. It has the same color. It does. It's black. The Queen Mary was also black and red. Like that picture on that postcard. I go, that looks like the Queen Mary. Because here, I'll do a comparison. I'm thinking that's what the Panda Bear, I think that's the one you're thinking of. So this is the Queen Mary. This is probably the one you're thinking of, Panda. This is the one where ghost hunters went to, and one of the crew members in the infamous haunted room, I think it was B340, pulled while they were filming, they pulled down the sheet and they debunked it. Ghost Adventures has gone here too as well. The Titanic kind of looked like that too, because whenever I look at the Titanic, I'm like, wait a minute. This is like a drawing of it, but the coloring kind of looks like it. That it kind of looks similar. So whenever I see the Titanic, it reminds me of the Queen Mary. It does. Kyle goes, there's also one in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Matthew was also adding that ghost hunters investigated Georgia aquarium that had Titanic items. Panda Bear finished reading a book called Geneva. Carol has already found skeleton. I know Carol, you found it. I know you did. And I have it in a good spot, and I know you found it. I'll give you a few more minutes, guys. There's also in San Diego, there's also a pirate ship that's allegedly haunted as well. I've never been on that pirate ship, but I've seen it from a distance when I've been in San Diego. And they also have an aircraft carrier, which I bet is probably haunted. In San Diego, I've been on that aircraft carrier, but I've never actually read anything about that being haunted. But I wouldn't past it that it isn't. Hug goes, my city has the famous steamship line. Lisa Boo goes eagle eyes. Carol, you can't get anything past Carol. You can't. It's impossible. Carol goes, I bet you were. I was always good at Where's Waldo. All right, guys, I think I gave you enough time to find Skeleduck. Skeleduck, if you look at the very top of the screen, above my head, so it's like directly above me, right where my finger is, right there, that's Skeleduck. That's the bottom of Skeleduck, right there, where my finger is. He's right above my head. I mean, technically, he's still in frame. So that is him, right where my finger is. Brandon, what is up? Panda, it is in frame. Because you could see it is in frame, technically. Because that bottom shelf is in frame. Lisa Boo goes, Pinchy, Skelly. Kyle's like, oh, what the duck? Wendy goes, I saw it, like, not that easy. Panda goes, I couldn't tell. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end this stream? Carol goes, you could see his ribs. You could see his ribs. I knew Carol would get it. Brandon goes, Pinchy Dick, I love that dang bird. Wendy's like, meh. Ah, Kyle, that sucks. I'm watching on 144p because my internet is butt tonight. Oh, sorry to hear, Kyle. I hate that. But glad you can watch. Even though I might be blurry. Carol is very observant. You can't get there. I accepted the challenge. I'm still trying to get the challenge going here. To stump her. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end this stream? That too, Kyle of St. Louis doesn't have many places to hide a duck. That's true. In my studio, it's more, there's more stuff in my studio, so I can hide it in more things. But Carol still finds it. But in this studio, there's not much. I got more of a background in mine. So I kind of have to be creative in the studio. Thank you, Lisa Boo. Bernadette goes, there's a spooky pic behind you under the tombstone. All right, guys, if there's no further questions, Matthew has to get up early. So without further ado, I am going to end the stream here. Thank you, Matthew, for staying up. I do appreciate that. I will end the stream here, guys. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Grayson Report. I will see you on the next one, which will be Thursday. I'm probably going to be a little late. It's not going to be at 7. It's probably going to be more like 7:30-ish, 7:45-ish. But I'll keep you guys posted. So 7:45-ish Pacific Standard Time and 10:45-ish Eastern Standard Time. Be there, be squared. That's on Thursday. I will see you guys. Stay spooky and sweet nightmares. Good night, guys, and thank you. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks again, and good night.